James chapter 23. A man pulled me by my rope outside the courtyard. After 2 days in the dungeon, the noonday sun scalded my eyes. I stumbled but did not fall. The man led me to the stocks and untied my hands and pointed. I laid my head in my hands in the crescents carved into the wood. He lowered the top board, pinning me in place, and secured two pieces together with a large padlock. The brazier filled with hot coals was set on the ground a few lengths in front of me. A second man stuck two branding irons into the metal basket to heat them up. My knees turned to water. I sagged against the wood. "Stand up, girl, or you'll choke yourself," growled the man, locked into the stocks to my left. I couldn't turn my head enough to see him, but his voice was rough and scarred. "Whatever you do, don't scream," he continued. "That's what they want to hear." I did not answer him, but forced my knees to hold me up. The wood locked around my knees was rough and splintering. My hands were soon without sensation, and my neck and arms pricked 100-fold by pitchforks. Two men were housed in an iron cage next to City Hall. One lay on the ground, asleep or dead. The second, his skin burned into the sun and peeling and missing his left ear, stared back at me blankly. A court official, his hat covered with a yellow dust, arrived with a man who wore a leather apron. He set to work pumping a hand bellows to increase the heat under the branding irons. The bellows wheezed in and out while the sun rose higher in the sky. It had rained that night. The mud puddles scattered around the yard gave off a steam like cauldrons coming to a boil. Sweat rolled off my face and fell in great drops to the dirt below. The wind shifted and blew the smoke from the brazier into the faces. I held my breath, and betwixt me and the dandelions grew in my mind in the mud. The man in the dusty coat pulled one of the branding irons out of the fire. He brought it close to my face and spit on it. The iron sizzled. My companion coughed and cursed, and the court officials and the judge who had sentenced him. The crowd had gathered a few lengths on the other side, mostly soldiers and tradesmen, with a few women, one carrying a babe with her arms. I thought I saw a boy in a red hat, but when I blinked, he was gone. Men at the front of the crowd called us names and jeered. The sunburned man in the cage yelled back, and soon the courtyard was filled with shouts in filthy language and the kind of words my mother never wanted me to say or hear. I fought against the tears and lost. They fell into the dust, big drops too. If I cried a river, maybe I could swim away, or I could slip under the water to freedom. The men in the dusty coats said something to the man in the leather apron. I could not hear him because of the noise of the crowds and the crackling of the coals and the beat of my heart in my ears. The men walked towards me. The dandelions were yellow or lemon yellow with bright green leaves and thick stalks pointing at the sky. At home in Rhode Island, the corn was tall as Ruth now. The spring lambs would be too heavy to pick up, and the new goat, he'd be running headfirst into every fence post. This was a good day to bleach the wool. The man with the leather apron pinned my head against the wood. He stank of charcoal. I tried to pull away, but my hands and head were locked fast. The splinters chewed on me. Dandelions grew in the mud. The glowing iron streaked in front of my face like a comet, and the crowd roared. The man pushed the hot metal against my cheek. It hissed and bubbled. Smoke curled under my nose. They cooked me. A man stepped back and pulled the iron away. The fire in my face burned on and on, deep through my flesh, searing my soul. Stars exploded out of the top of my head, and all of my words and all of my memories followed them up to the sun, burning to ash that floated back and settled in the mud. A few people at the edge of the crowd had fallen silent. They walked away with their heads down. My mama and papa appeared in the shadows. They flew to me and wrapped their arms around me and cooled my face with their ghost tears, and night crept into my soul.